Hi, I'm doing a talk today about Barack Obama. I did a research paper about him, and I think you'll find his life is pretty interesting. He started off his life in Hawaii. He was born there to a mother that was from Kansas and a father that was from Kenya. Barack never really gets to know his father, as his father ends up leaving and going to attain a PhD at Harvard, and then he ends up going back to Kenya for good. Then Barack's mother ends up meeting another man at the University of Hawaii that's from Indonesia, and this man she ends up falling in love with. He ends up he's told he's got to go back to Indonesia, and from there he ends up asking them to come join him a year later, and they end up moving there. Barack's mother is not very happy with the circumstances they are living in because they're pretty barbaric, and she realizes that Barack's not going to really get the education he needs, so she ends up waking him up every morning at 3 in the morning so she can go over the educational material that she wants him to get, and then he ends up going to school every day. From there, his mother ends up going to, she gets a job, and she teaches foreign diplomats how to speak English. So she's ultimately a teacher. She ends up having to travel a lot and realizes that's just not going to work, and she ends up sending Barack back to Hawaii to live with his grandparents. In Hawaii, Barack realizes how different he is, especially now that he's living with two white parents, and the kids begin to confront him about the fact that he is different, and he ends up saying that causes him to have a pretty rough time in his teen years, and he ends up doing drugs.
Does Barack Obama experience racial tension from his grandparents?
No, his grandparents are pretty accepting of both his biological father and his stepfather, and he doesn't receive the racial tension from them, but he does receive it from his classmates at school. He ends up going to college, and he obtains a political science degree. From there, he ends up working as a community organizer for low-income housing in Chicago, Illinois. And about the same time, he ends up meeting Reverend Wright and coming to know Christ. And from there, about the same time all this happens, Barack ends up getting a phone call from his grandparents in Kenya, telling him that his father has died in an automobile accident. And Barack, I think for the first time, actually realizes that he really doesn't know anything about his father except little, segments and stuff that people have told him. And so he ends up wanting to go back to Kenya and find out where his roots were, where he came from, about his father, and he does. He realizes that his father, for all his education and for all his intelligence, that he ended up dying pretty dissatisfied with his life. His father never really attained the goals that he wanted to, because when he went back to Kenya with all that education, he wanted to help his people become better educated and help them progress from the difficulties they have in Kenya, and those things were never accomplished. He also ends up never really being able to hold down a job because he always speaks his mind, and his political views he was pretty open about those, and that caused a lot of friction with the people in Kenya. He also Once he gets back from Kenya, Barack decides he wants to go to Harvard Law and become a lawyer. And I think he realizes that he really has a passion for helping others. And once he obtains his law degree, he ends up working as a civil rights attorney, and that's where he ends up meeting Michelle, his wife. And then from there, he ends up deciding he wants to become a politician, and he runs for the legislation in Illinois, and he gets a position there.
Had Barack always planned on becoming a politician?
No, I don't think he'd always planned on becoming a politician, but it just seemed like the place for him to be. And I think he realized that a lot after he had gone to Kenya and realized what a passion his father had. He also works at the college as a constitutional law teacher, and Barack is very passionate about our Constitution and about the laws that are in our Constitution, and I think politics just fell into place. Anyway, now he's seeking the presidency. Went on to the U.S. Senate, and now he's seeking the presidency.